WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand Dawning, Cleveland, Ohio. Vince Robinson with another edition of Open Door. My guest this morning is Woodcarver, an artist and an activist of sorts. I'm going to put that label on him, whether he likes it or not. But he's very well versed in the history of our people in this country and things that are related to us. It's my pleasure to welcome to Open Door John Omar. Brother John, how are you today?
I'm good, Vince. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad that we are finally able to have this conversation. In all transparency, I've known you for a while, and I've seen some of your work, and I've actually been associated with you as an artist for a while, and I just thought it would be great to share your story with our listening audience. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you a few questions about how you came up and how you became an artist and what your artwork has been about, as well as some of the issues that you are passionate about. So why don't we start with the beginning? Are you a native Clevelander, or did you grow up somewhere else and migrate here? How did John Omar get his start?
Yeah, I was born here at Lakeside Hospital. And I actually got my start as a woodcarver in 1972 in Atlanta. I had moved to Atlanta. I was there for about almost 7 years. And I started making what I called astrological tikis, which I would carve a face in a stick and put the zodiac sign on the forehead. I sold them for $3 a piece.
Yeah. And was it a successful venture for you?
I was able to pay the rent. I remember this is 1973. My rent was $60 a month. And I was so prolific, I would carve at least 10 of them a day. And $30 a day was actually good money back then.
Mm. And I think astrology was really kind of in vogue back then. I mean, you know, the standard line was, "Hey, baby, what's your sign?" You know?
Yeah, although for the record, I never used that line. But yeah,
okay.
It was the standard line.
All right. And just out of curiosity, did you have any awareness or understanding of astrology back then, or was it just something that you did because you knew it would pay the bills?
I had a rudimentary knowledge, but not that, not that deep. I was aware that the moon affected the tides, so that might mean that the planets affect our behavior. Mm-hmm. Being 70% water,
Yes.
But anyway, that's the way I looked at it, yeah. And I had a very, very rudimentary knowledge.
Okay. So what was it that brought you to Atlanta?
I went to Atlanta simply because I wanted to go somewhere. And I don't know if I told you this in our years of knowing each other, but I used to hitchhike from one part of the country to the other. And when I got to Atlanta, it was hard getting a job, so I started carving wood for a living. In 72, I was still in Cleveland. And one day walking down the street, I saw a piece of wood that looked like it had a face on it. And I took my pocket knife and I brought the face out. And I've been a woodcarver ever since. I guess the only thing I can say is that I was destined to do it. But I didn't start doing what you would call cultural things until a few years later, probably in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm. What would you consider your birth in things cultural? What steered you towards that awareness, if you know?
was raised in a Seventh-day Adventist family, and we didn't eat pork. We ate meat, but we didn't really eat meat. But occasionally I would eat it if nobody was looking. But no, but I never ate pork. And I was somewhat of an outsider from the other children in the neighborhood. Although I fit in to a certain extent, but I was an outsider when it came to barbecues and hot dogs, things like that. I never ate that, and I was looked upon as somewhat strange. But the thing that brought me to culture, and I mean African culture, is that I saw a great deal of brainwashing. For instance, I have two sisters, both of whom would suffer from, first-degree burns and, discomfort from getting their hair straightened. And I thought, how is it possible that we were born on this planet and have bad hair? How is that possible? How is it possible that we have to get our hair, women I'm talking about, straightened in order to have good hair? And I found that amazing. And I started studying history. I went to a downtown library a lot, and by a lot I mean every day. And I studied history and culture and psychology.
Interesting. And so you had this awareness as a result of your studies. Undoubtedly, it affected your artwork. How did you weave that into your work as a woodcarver?
Well, most of my work is African symbols like Adinkra symbols, and what are now called Egyptian symbols like the Ankh, Eye of Heru, that kind of thing. And I like to discuss these things, like to discuss history with people. One of the few things I'm interested in outside of woodworking. And I think that knowledge of history is essential, and knowledge of self is essential to understanding the world and prospering in the world. And when I use the term prosper, I haven't got there yet. Matter of fact, I took a vow of poverty. I knew that by taking a vow of poverty, I'd be able to learn more about people and the world I lived in.
That's profound. So you spent 6 years in Atlanta, and then you came back to Cleveland. Could you talk about the transition between there and here?
There was very little culture shock, if that's what you mean. I was just blended right in, so to speak. As a woodcarver, I only deal with, a certain cadre of people, you might say. I know a lot of artists and musicians, and of course criminals. So, but yeah, I just came, and slid right back into this. I have family here. I have a really big family, as a matter of fact. At least probably 100 of us here.
Wow.
Cousins and relatives. I've been very lucky. I think the most important thing that I've done is not eating pork and taking very good care of my health.
Okay. So you said something really interesting in that you said that you took a vow of poverty. What motivated you to do that?
The passage that some people used to mouth, and it's somewhere in the Bible, they say, the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I was very interested in that statement. And I observed people, and I knew people who would do anything for money. Legal, illegal, moral, or immoral, if you know what I mean. And I saw it as something that kept them from achieving true freedom. True freedom is a phrase that I interpret to mean being able to go where you want to go, when you want to go, and be able to do what you want to do, which I've achieved with my woodwork. You know, I haven't had a job since the 80s, but I also don't have any money. So don't get me wrong, I don't recommend you take a vow of poverty. Not at all. But I did, and I profited spiritually from it.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of obvious in that you took a vow of poverty, and so from your words, you're saying that you don't have a lot materially anyway, but somehow you've been able to subsist over all this time. You know, when they talk about artists, they usually they connect the term starving to it. You can't be starving because you've been alive all this time, but you know, it hasn't been something that you've done for monetary gain, but it has enabled you to continue to exist. So I'm just curious how you feel about that I guess, progression in terms of your life.
The term vow of poverty, or the paradigm attached to it, doesn't mean that you have to sleep under the bridge and beg for pennies in the street, as they say. Although I've done that, not to begging for pennies, but I have slept under the bridge. I've never begged for anything. But the vow of poverty means that you don't aspire to acquire more than you actually need to live. That's actually what it means. When I had a son and I have a daughter, and when my son was born, I had a job, and I paid the bills, and my son died, by the way, and I paid the bills with that job. And when my daughter was born, that's when I joined the Carpenters Union and was making a whopping $6 an hour, which is huge in 1976. You know, you can't afford a doghouse nowadays, but back then, $6 an hour, you were middle class, you know. And yeah, I've had jobs, or I should say, I've done what I had to do in order to, you know, take care of my business. Usually, when I say I was married to a woman, I was married for 25 years. But usually, when I say I was married to a woman, and we had a child, and the three of us lived in a house. You know, I had a car. I was about as normal as I've ever been, you know. And but usually when I say that, people make the assumption that she was the one that had a job and was bringing in money, but that's not true. She stayed at home, and I went out and worked.
Okay. You've just opened up Pandora's box, and I want to get to that box when we get back from the other side of this break. Some interesting things have happened, and we'll talk about them. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOAU. My guest is woodcarver and artist John Omar. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
What's up?
WOVU plays the best music, right?
Yeah.
And WOVU has the best talk shows and information for the city?
Yeah.
Well, now WOVU 95.9 FM has the best website to match. So right now, go ahead and log on to WOVU.org and see exactly what I'm talking about.
I know that's right.
You never have to guess what's going on WOVU 95.9. Log on to the homepage and see exactly what's playing right now, every day, 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
You can find the program schedule, events going on around the city, and check out who's who at WOVU.
You already know what it is.
So do me a favor, pull out your smartphone, your laptop, your desktop, your tablet, log on to WOVU.org right now. Can you do that for me?
I got you, fam.
WOVU 95.9 FM, the best radio station, now has the best website. Okay. WOVU.org. Check it out.
Hi, this is Wanda Harris from Warrensville Heights, Ohio, and you're listening to the best radio station in Cleveland, WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Woodcarver John Omar. In the last few moments, he told me that he was married for 25 years. He had a son. He has a daughter. And he was making a whopping $6 an hour as a carpenter back then. I remember back then I had a few jobs and I was happy to get $2.35 an hour. So if you were getting $6 an hour, bro, you were balling.
Oh yeah, that was huge. That was huge. My rent was $95 a month for a house with about a half acre of land in the backyard.
Wow.
Yeah. I paid $225 for a car, 1964 Ford. Ran good. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, but I also worked on cars at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to the Atlanta Skills Center and I learned auto mechanics. And according to the instructor, I was very good.
Okay. Yeah. So to pick up your knife and to start carving something, it means that, at least to me, it means that you had this talent that was in you that maybe you didn't know about, but it just somehow came out of you. That's an amazing story, and it's always amazing to know how people discover their artistic abilities. Let's talk about what happened. You said you were married and you had 2 children. Talk about that aspect of your life.
Well, it's at this point now, you know, my daughter is doing well, and you know, I'm doing pretty well. My son died when he was very young, and most people don't know I ever had a son. But I would say I was more complete with that aspect of my life, you know. And as time went on, you know, the times changed, mental paradigm changed. You know, I use that word a lot, paradigm, but what I should say is my mentality changed. The world didn't change very much. You know, the world is still limping along with its accent on material wealth and its lies that convince people that there's some kind of moral good and, for instance, attacking another country because they happen to be communists or they're not, you know, democratic or whatever. And I see it as a great, profound con game to say that by going to another country and bombing their houses and killing their citizens, that you're somehow doing God's work, for lack of a better term. You know, I see it as a huge con game. And it kept me from, I was in the Army, by the way. I was in the Army. I was drafted in 1969. And I went through basic training. At the end of it, I left. People would say, I'm talking about the brothers, they would say, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You got to do this, otherwise they'll put you in jail. And I would say, yeah, whatever, I'm out, bye, you know. But as I think about it now, and I haven't thought about this for quite some time, but as I think about it now, I remember my grandfather, Seventh-day Adventist, at that time, and it may be still, that Seventh-day Adventists didn't serve in the Army. They didn't serve the government at all. But I remember he brought a pamphlet home once, and there was a brother had been arrested, and they were marching him into the federal penitentiary for refusing to answer the call to be drafted into the Army. And so a reporter ran up to him and he said, well, Mr. So-and-so, I don't remember his name, are you telling me that you would rather go to jail than serve your country? And the brother looked at him and he said, "I'd rather lose my freedom than lose my soul." And as I think about it now, that probably kept me from going to Vietnam.
So your status as a Seventh Day Adventist, was that something that you would have been able to utilize to not go, or was it just you saying I'm not going to go?
It was just me saying I'm not going to go. No, I couldn't use that, just like that brother. But unlike him, I didn't refuse to be drafted and be inducted. After I was drafted, after I went to basic training, I hit the road and never went back.
Okay. So you just basically walked away from it.
Yeah.
And they never caught up with you?
Oh, they caught up with me. They caught up with me after about a year, and they took me to the Stockade, Fort Meade, Maryland. I was there for about 7 months. And then the commander called me into his office and he said, "Well, you're going to return to duty?" And I said, "Nope." So he said, "Okay, bye." And he gave me a bad discharge and I walked out.
Wow. That is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. You know, I reflect upon, back then and the possibility that I might have to serve. My father is a military veteran. He served in the Air Force for 22 years, and it was partly his experience that told me that I didn't want to have any parts of being in the military. So I remember in my 17, 18-year-old mind thinking, hey, if they come for me like that, it's going to either be Mexico or Canada, but I ain't going over there to do that dirty work. You touched on something really interesting earlier in our conversation, and it was just about this whole notion that, one country could enforce its idea of what's right for another country on another country, and then go in and wipe people and wipe property out. And somehow there doesn't seem to be a very just thing. And when we look at the history of the United States, it is marked by this notion that the American way is the right way and the world needs to be more like America. Obviously, you don't agree with that. Do you have any further observations about imperialism and how it has affected global society?
Well, first of all, Vince, you're a master of understatement. But my father was also in the Army. As a matter of fact, he was a Tuskegee Airman. He wasn't a pilot; he was a medic. And since we're talking about World War II, and once I told him that I was thinking about not going to the Army, and he said, he had 6 Bronze Stars, by the way, but he said, "Well, if you don't believe in what they're doing, then don't go." And what's interesting about that is that he was the only one who said that. Everybody else in my family was appalled that I wasn't going to go. They were shocked. They were saying, "Well, they'll put you in jail. You better go, blah, blah, blah. Just tough it out for a while, blah, blah, blah." But he, as a combat veteran with 6 Bronze Stars, simply said, "Well, if you don't believe in what they're doing, don't go." So here I am, But as for, quote, imperialism, I'll put it to you like this. There are families all over the world there speak their language. They grow up in their culture. They have children. They have dogs. They go to the store. They hunt. They fish. And in general, they mind their own business. But what we don't understand, and by we I mean African people here in America, what we don't understand is that we are a colony inside America. We are not truly Americans. We are a colony inside America in the same way that they attempted to colonize Vietnam, or they attempted to colonize several South American countries. and of course, several African countries were colonized. Matter of fact, there was only one that wasn't colonized, called Ethiopia. And I'm going to go off the chart for a minute here and say the reason they weren't colonized is because they had a woman army. They had both a male and female army. You take of that what you will. But the fact that you can say to your people, you can teach, you can brainwash your people into thinking that being born with white skin makes you superior to everybody else, and that you can therefore do with those other people as you will. That's amazing to me. That's fascinating to me. And the fact that some of us go along with it is even more amazing.
Yes. It's really amazing that, in spite of the fact that everything that we are is responsible for what they are in terms of their awareness of science and spirituality and all those things. They're a direct result of their association with us through what they learn through us. But then, we accept this brainwash that somehow we are lesser than them. I mean, we identify ourselves every day as minorities, when if you look at the facts, there are more of us than there are of them, but we refer to ourselves as minor. The concept of being a colony inside America is really intriguing. I want to ask you a little bit more about that as we make our transition to our next break. So stay with us. We are talking with Woodcarver John Omar. He's dropping some really interesting things about his life. I'm really happy to hear these things, and I hope you are too. We'll be back with more Open Door with Vince Robinson right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. It's a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. We'll be back in a few moments.
Are you or someone you know in need of help? Here's a resource you can turn to.
The Thea Bowman Center has been serving the community for over 50 years and provides services to help support Mount Pleasant and surrounding communities of all ages. Some of these programs include adult education like GED, computer classes, food pantry, senior outreach, youth after school, and summer programs, and much more. Are you a Cleveland resident in need of a GED preparation, a food pantry, youth or senior programs? Then call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit theabowmancenter.org. Call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit theabowmancenter.org to register today.
This message is brought to you by the Thea Bowman Center and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. Should you be listening to WOVU 95.9 FM?
Yeah!
That's right, because all we want to do is help you. Any situation in your life, we can help you make it better. Whether it's education, housing, jobs, careers, finance, entrepreneurship, health, legal issues, we have got your back and then some. So you got to keep it locked to WOVU 95.9 FM 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, and it's Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Woodcarver John Omar. In our past few moments, we talked about something called a colony inside America, and he has told us that that's exactly what black folks are in America. Could you give us a little bit more insight on how you came to that conclusion?
I'm glad you asked that question. Or any colonized people are basically used to enrich the, quote, imperial country or the colonizing country. You're not, for instance, helped to develop yourself or to develop your own economy or your own society. One example would be the number game. The number game, or policy, as people called it, it came from the islands. I'm not sure which ones, but they call it bolito. And so the islanders brought it here, and it was huge in the African American community. It actually sent people to college. It paid people's rent. It helped people survive. It nickel and dimed people to middle class status at some point. Now, the powers that be, or government, or white supremacy, whatever, got wind of this, and they thought, well, we can't let them have this because they can, free themselves. They can start their own schools and teach them something other than what we want them to know, et cetera, et cetera. So they declared it illegal. They made it illegal to write numbers. They jailed people. People went to jail for years for writing numbers. And it took a lot of money out of the community. This is just one example, though. There are many. They took money out of the community. They knew, being the behavioral scientists that they are, they knew that there are people who simply won't be satisfied with working for minimum wage and being exploited in that way. So they brought in dope. The Crips and the Bloods didn't bring dope into the country, by the way. The guy standing on the corner selling dime bags of crack, or in those days heroin, didn't bring it into the country. Instead, the monkeys that pack of dogs, whatever you want to call them, that run this government, and I'm sorry if that's going to get you taken off the air, but that run this government are the ones that actually brought the dope into the country and continue to bring it in to this day. And the people who are amazed that somebody can be busted for selling dope on Tuesday and be back on the street on Friday don't understand that that's the game. They need to keep dope circulating in the country to keep us off balance, to keep us easy to jail and easy to kill. That's how you run a colony. You suppress the people's economic life so you can suppress their social and legal life and spiritual life, by the way.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the history of this country and some of the other countries in the world, you can see a direct relationship between the lives of people and the drug trade. I mean, if we go back to the so-called slave trade of 4 centuries ago.
Which, by the way, was legal.
Yes, it was legal. And you transported all these Africans to the Americas so that you could proliferate drugs. They worked on the sugar cane plantations, and they worked on tobacco plantations. And what did they do with the sugar? They used it to make alcohol, and then they shipped the alcohol that they created to Europe. So that whole triangular trade piece. If you look at the history of China, you look at the opium wars. I mean, it's so many times it's been about drugs. And, the ironic part about it is that that's really what put America on the map. The fact that they had the benefit of all this free labor and they could, create this alcohol and enrich the pockets of the elite folks who were running the country. I'm not going to censor you, my brother. So, if you want to describe someone as you do, please feel free, because I'm an advocate for free speech. And, I've been censored myself. So I definitely wouldn't, go down that rabbit hole. But, there are certain limitations. We can't use certain words on the air, but we do have a right to express ourselves as we choose to. So I'm glad you brought that up. I just think that it's important for us to get the story right. We're living in a time where, there's this thing called critical race theory, and you have legislators in this state who are trying to ban it. You're looking at other states where it has already been banned, and basically they just don't want people to know the truth. And we have been victimized by it because we haven't, in large measure, really known the full truth about who we are, what our role has been in this country, but the success of America has come at the expense of black folk who in many ways have not been responsible in certain respects. For instance, $1.3 trillion going through our hands on a yearly basis. And what do we have to show for it? As soon as we get the money, we give it to someone else, and then they use what we give them to continue to empower them to make us victims. I think it's important, and we're having this conversation about art at the moment, but I think it's important for us to use the tools that we have to correct that. So perhaps through carving wood, or painting a picture, or taking a photograph, or writing a poem, or singing a song, or telling a story, we can correct the misinformation that we've been given over a long period of time. I watched a video online this morning that was really interesting. It was this brother he calls himself the Hood Healer, and he was talking about the term school, and he talked about the origin of that word, who it comes from. And I'm not going to say, because again, we don't want to get taken off the air, and this is a situation where if you offend a specific group, you'll find yourself in deep doo-doo, if you know what I'm saying. But yes, if you look at the term school, and those who are etymologists can vouch for this, the term actually relates to a concept that we call 7734 double hockey sticks, whatever. That's what it is. That's what school, that the origin of the word is what that is. So what we've been doing is we have been sending our children to that. And if you look at the system and how it's skewed against us, I don't think you can really argue with that.
Oh, I would say that our failure to teach or educate our own children is our greatest failure. And it's a damn shame. I'm sorry, but it's a shame.
Yeah.
And one day, myself included, I might say, I might add that, myself included, I myself, even though I teach my grandchildren, and I taught my daughter to do certain things in the art field, I still am negligent, or I feel a certain sense of failure that I didn't get others together and start a school for our children, because the schools that we send them to they're terrible.
Yes.
To make a long story short, they're terrible. I would say that you and others succeeded in spite of your education, not because of it. And by succeeded, I mean kept your African mind. That's what I mean. Kept the willingness to help each other rather than exploit each other. Your show, your music, these things are what makes us who we are, and they actually keep us alive. I say your music, I mean music in general, our music. There's these things that actually keep us alive and keep us sane. Without these things, we would really go off the deep end.
Yes.
So, and I really appreciate a chance to say these things. I very seldom get a chance to say these things.
Yes. Well, and likewise, when I think about our existence in this country, and it just doesn't apply to us exclusively, it applies to the entire population. But basically, you have a country of people who are enslaved by debt. The design of this system is that everybody has debt that they have until they are no longer breathing. And the whole... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I hate to interrupt, but I was going to say, unless they take a vow of poverty. I'm sorry. I had to throw that.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
All right. Well, but yeah, I mean, it's just a fact. You are indebted until you're no longer here. And then they create these rules that they have exclusive rights to, so they operate within that framework of rules that you don't know about, and they use it to their advantage. They will set up an irrevocable trust and put all their assets in the irrevocable trust, which puts them out of the reach of anyone who's trying to come for those. And then they just continue to exist as if, there's no big deal. They don't pay taxes. One of the biggest issues that we have in this country right now is you have these corporations like Amazon and others that are generating all this income, but they're not paying their portion of taxes, so the tax burden falls on those who can least afford it. I mean, it's in many ways, it's an elaborate Ponzi scheme that folks are oblivious to because they've been told that it's the right way to do things. And I'll beg to differ, but who am I? I'm just somebody who has these observations and shares them with folks every once in a while. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. Very interesting conversation that I'm having with artist and woodcarver John Omar. We're going to get back to more of this conversation when we get back.
WOVU listeners, did you know you can call us during any live show? Did you know you can ask questions or give your comments live on the air? If you didn't know, now you know. Call the WOVU request line at 216-271-0959. Your voice is our request. No one says it like you. You're better than the rest. Call us 216-271-0959. Questions, comments, complaints, we want all that and the kitchen sink. This is WOVU. Our voices united. We can't do it without you. Call on through.
Why you go and listen to WOVU 95.9? Hey man, WOVU is that trending station, man. They got the best music in the area. They got the independent artists. They're all over Cleveland. They have something for everyone to listen to. Even the youth can dance to the rhythm of WOVU. Don't be a bumbleclot. Keep that dial locked to WOVU 95.9. The best station in the area. Check it.
WOVU LP Cleveland. Welcome back to Open Door. Vince Robinson here with woodcarver John Omar, and we've had quite a discussion about some realities of America, including the fact that most of us, unless we are free in our minds, are actually slaves to a system that has us servicing debt until we are no longer breathing. There must be a few other things that you want to share with us before we conclude the program. I know that living an artist's life is different in that, you're not reporting to somebody's job every day. You are a creative person. As we have this conversation, you're actually having the varnish dry on something that you've created. What is it like for you to be so successful in terms of being able to take care of yourself and those that you love with your craft and exist in a mindset that is not, parallel to the popular opinion?
Once again, you're a master of understatement. But I would say that the most difficult thing that I do every day is keep the grin off my face. I'm not oblivious to what's going on, of course, but I am aware that my situation could be a lot worse, and a lot worse, and has been a lot worse, But having the most valuable thing in the world actually is freedom, and having that, I tend to keep at least a slight smile on my face. So I'm not suffering in the least, especially since my children and grandchildren are doing well and, they're healthy. So I'm not really suffering. I actually live for them now. And I would say that if I had to do all over again, I would probably do it the same way.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would try to. I used to try to fit in. I used to try to be normal. You know what I mean? I used to try to be like everybody else, but I've never been there. I never quite mastered that. So here I am. But go ahead, Vince.
Oh no! As we have this conversation, I was just thinking about one of our partners in the art, Brother Mark Shuriel, Rofe Mark Shuriel. I have a photograph that I took of you and him. I think it may have been a Juneteenth celebration a few years ago. It was something that was happening at Rockefeller Park, and it just popped into my mind. And I just I have a lot of admiration for that brother because of his base of knowledge. You know, he was an astrologer. He was going to get around to doing my natal chart, but it never happened. Unfortunately, he's on the other side. So, you know, perhaps I'll get it cosmically, perhaps not. But I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about him and his life as an artist.
Well, Mark Shuriel, that photo you took was at the African American Cultural Garden.
Mm-hmm.
What, 4 or 5 years ago? Was it that long?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that long ago. And Mark Shuriel was another man who lived life on his own terms. I really was saddened to hear of his passing, and knowing him was inspiring to me. He was a great brother. Him and Sister Elanite, his wife, and both of them actually led a pretty inspiring life, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark Shuriel was one man I looked up to, and I'm really sorry he's gone. He was a very wise and spiritual person. I was probably, I was probably his friend for maybe a few years, 4 or 5 years, you know. But in that time, I was always inspired by his life.
Okay. Being an artist, what do you think about the landscape for those who identify in this community as an artist? And the reason that I'm asking this question is because we're living in a time where there's a growing awareness of the importance of artists in our community, but at the same time, we're not receiving the degree of support that we should receive. What's your take on how artists are thriving or not thriving in Cleveland in general and Cuyahoga County?
Well, unfortunately, artists have to support each other or support themselves. Artists have to arrange their own shows and their own opportunities, and advertise themselves and get themselves out there, because art, especially unvarnished, truthful art, is actually dangerous to certain parts of the system. They shouldn't be, but they are. The people who do art, if they're honest, have to challenge the system. They have to challenge the not exactly challenge. Challenge might not be the word. They have to expose the holes in the system, or the lies in the system. They have to encourage or inspire people to think for themselves and to think critically and to look beyond the surface of what they're doing and saying and what they're learning. You know, that's, I think, the true purpose of an artist. Even if you don't have to be a visual artist. You can, and by visual, I even mean writing, poetry. You know, these things inspire people. You know, you can write, you can music. There are songs that inspire people, and even songs without words. There are musical pieces that vibe with a person's soul and allow that person's soul to travel somewhere else and put them in a different mindset. You know, I think about people like John Coltrane or Thelonious Monk or Vince Robinson. You probably never heard of him, but I think about these people, and they try to put that message out. And if somebody hears it and understands it, that's good. You've done your job. But as for art in Cleveland or in Cuyahoga County, I'd say we're not doing too bad. Places I've been, they didn't have an arts council or Cuyahoga Arts Council or whatever. You know, they didn't even have that. And artists were completely on their own, completely out there, you know. But still, even after saying that, I still say that we as artists have to promote ourselves. We have to let people know that there's more to life, there's more to music than Beyonce. Not downing Beyonce, but there's more to music than Beyonce. And there's more to great artwork than Picasso or whoever, you know. There are people of our ethnic persuasion who are doing great things in art. And they're doing things to attempt to wake people up through their music, their poetry, their visual art, you know. And I would hope that people slowly come to realize that and support us. By us, I mean me and you, even more, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not easy, but we have to support each other. Have to support ourselves.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because there's just so much power in what we do as artists, and I'm just thinking about a painting that I saw online the other day. I think somebody posted it on Facebook, but it was a piece of art that was produced by this brother who depicted Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, and some of our other historical figures. And he painted a picture of a white arm with a paint roller, and he was whitewashing the poster. So you could see the arm, and you could see the roller, and you could see how he was just basically, you know, painting white over these images of our historic figures, our historic ancestors. And the whole point of it was its relationship to the idea of a ban on critical race theory. You know, that it was just so profound. You know, that image was so profound. It's so informative. And, you know, it only takes a few moments to look at that and see exactly what it was depicting. And it's just the power of art. You know, we talk about artists as healers, and the reality is that, you know, when we think of healing, we always think of medical institutions, yes, hospitals and whatnot. But, you know, you talked about the ability of a song to take somebody to another place. And, you know, truth is that when we want to escape the harshness of reality, we escape to it through art, but we also escape to reality through art. So very profound. And once again, I thank you for raising that issue. I am hopeful that we will see a time when our communities respect artists to a greater extent than we do. I mean, sometimes they look at us and they think, oh, well, you know, you're just having a good time, or, you know, you're just playing music and having a good time. And, you know, the reality is that what we are doing is we are a vehicle for the expression of creation through the Creator. We're the transmitters. And so, you know, the Creator, God, whatever, those who don't believe that's your prerogative. But, you know, that energy, whatever it is responsible for being able to edify the lives of others. And that's our purpose and role. And when we wake up to it, as you did when you picked up that pocket knife and started carving on that piece of wood and transforming it into an astrological symbol that someone could relate to, you discovered the power that lies within you. And to take it a step further, you said, well, this is not going to be about making a millionaire. It's going to be about me having a positive impact on others. John Omar, I appreciate so much your support. I appreciate so much the work that you're doing, and I appreciate the fact that you have shared your story with us this morning on this radio program. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And thank you for listening. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day, Cleveland. Peace.